But let's look at the data really on penalties as we try and we'll get to social media in a bit there. But let's have a look at the penalties. So since 1982, these are your World Cup shootout conversion rates. Okay, interesting graph. You've had.
So this was just before the shootout with Japan to give us an idea of the best places to put your penalties.
So this is your for our viewers. This is how. So when you face the goalpost, that's what you see. The most successful areas are probably the top third, but those are very
that high risk, high reward.
High risk, high reward.
So Matletizzi, who famously scored 47 out of 48 penalties in his career, said he nearly always went for the top corner. Because once you hit the top corner, the keeper isn't saving it.
Yeah,
but if you don't hit the top,
high risk, high reward.
If you miss the top corner, it's going to look bad.
I remember listening to Owen Hargreaves talk about his penalty against Chelsea in the Champions League final, and we all remember that. He said so the night before he had been practicing and he kept putting it top corner. But he said as he took the ball during the game, as he was walking towards pitch, he started to think, or maybe I should go bottom corner, or maybe through the middle. Then he told himself that no, if he changes his mind, he would miss. Luckily for Owen Hargreaves, quality technique, he scored.
I heard Harry Kane who picks a side the day before and plays about 10, 20 penalties where he wants to play before the match. He makes up his mind the day before the match. So when the penalty comes, he's already chosen, and you just play it like that.
Okay, so when we look at this, so guys, it's very obvious the top third, high risk, high reward. If you put it there, keeper is not saving that. Yeah. And even if he tries saving, I wonder how he's going to put that off. But the danger zones we see, there's a 6/13 part, which is a 46.2, and it's the lowest scoring area.
And you notice, that's the perfect height for the keeper. And also, it's a lot of right footers. That's where they tend to go. They are natural. Like if they play the penalty, naturally they go there. So the keeper knows it's very easy. Usually, players who play there, it's because they are not natural penalty takers. So there's a lack of conviction, and it's a bit telegraphed that the ball is going to go there. So it's the easier side.
I see.
You notice that on the left-hand side, it's a bit similar, but because left-footed players are less common, you won't see it as much. And when a right footer plays it there, it can also catch the keeper off balance. And even speaking about penalty, we'll go into Neymar's penalty. One of the reasons Neymar's penalties are so good is, first of all, he waits for the keeper. And secondly, now I've noticed, when the keeper doesn't commit, he puts it to the kind of unnatural side rather than the natural side. So the keeper, in the anticipation, assumes you go to the natural side, and he always puts at the unnatural side. I'm noticing this now. Okay. I'm sure someone will pick it up. But the problem is, because he waits so long, you can't do anything about it.
When you mention natural side, most people will tend to think, okay, so I'm right-footed. My natural side will logically be here. But when you talk about natural, you mean your natural side towards the goalkeeper?
Yeah, usually when a right-footed person takes a penalty, they will likely put it to their left, rather than to their right. Because the natural thing is not to open up your body to play it. Okay, it's to kind of, go this way.
So that's what we mean by the natural side.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the shootout graph. Let me take Daniel's thoughts and whether or not some of those things reminds him of some of the shootouts you've seen and where players have missed some of the kicks.
I'm not surprised. The sides, the middle row, second from.
I mean, if you want to go to the screen, you can.
Second, I'm not surprised. These two, this side and this side, are the ones with the
lowest scoring. Yeah,
the lowest.
I know what's interesting. But what's interesting? The keeper's right hand side and the keeper's left hand side. There's a big difference in that side, and that side
also. As Susu has said, that's a perfect height for the keeper. This angle, because it's almost in the motion of falling. So once he's pushed himself to that side, it's a bit difficult when you go hard and you go to the bottom. That's why you see this one also having a high conversion rate. If you go hard to the bottom, it's extremely difficult for them to reach that extreme side of the post. But when you go here and he's pushed himself in the air, making that save, in the motion of jumping,
and even if they are low, they can still have even if they're on the ground, they can
still have that. And we've seen a number of those saves happening, not just the World Cup, but football in general, where goalkeepers go down and use a strong.
And if you notice, a lot of the penalties Japan missed were in these the 17 out of 13 area and the 17 over 14 area. A lot of the I believe two of the penalties they missed at least went in that area, and maybe one went to I think the 12 out of 18. They didn't really put them in high quality areas in terms of the graph, so it's not a surprise. But I like how straight down the middle is also, apart from the 80% side, is pretty good money. 2 of 2 and 4 out of 5. It's pretty good money to go straight.
But half, 50%, 17 over 14 is bad.
Yeah, it means that.
But because you see, if the keeper stands, that's almost where his feet are. Yeah. Not so.
But also, you see goalkeepers dive and leave a foot very close to the middle. So if they don't overcommit, the chances. But
I think because again, like we said, natural side, and most penalty takers being right-footed, they would naturally dive to this side of the goal, the 17 out of 14 side. Yeah. So if you just move it a bit to the keeper's side, the 7 out of 10 side, that's why the success rate kind of rises, because the keepers will dive there less, and also because it's a bit out of their reach, it's more likely to go in. But that's a keeper-dependent penalty. And we can go into keeper-dependent and keeper-independent. So a keeper-independent will be someone like Harry Kane. He runs up, he picks his spot, and hits it as hard as he can. Then a keeper-dependent is what we saw from Dede Ayew or Neymar. They wait for the keeper to move. Jorginho, Bruno Fernandes. And I prefer penalties like that, because when they're executed right, the keeper has no chance, because you have predicated your shot on his movement. So once he's moved, you go to the side of the pole, he's left open. And he can't, once he's leant this way, he can't contort his body. It's not them locked.
It takes me to the Ajman Bedu penalty from 2009, where he talks about how he got guidance from Asamoah Gyan that if you commit a goalkeeper, wherever he goes, if you put that ball, he can't even recover or put it close to his feet. Because you remember that penalty, it wasn't the hardest. But what he did to Raphael was to have him rooted at the spot, and then he swept the penalty down.
If you remember the 90s Syria superstar, Beppe Signori,
he didn't even run up.
He didn't run up because he watched the keeper's knee. So once the keeper's knee bent a certain way, it meant that he can't go the other way. So you hit it the other way. So he would stand quite literally like this, on the penalty. Yeah. And then when the keeper bends, other side. And it was... Wow. So he had a fairly good, he scored about maybe 43 out of 45, something like that. He had a quite, and even when Neymar was missing penalties for Barca, they called him to come and teach Neymar penalties. Unfortunately, he had to come in an unofficial role since he's banned from football. But yeah.
Like sneaking. So this is very interesting.
That's what Barcelona have been doing.
So which means that probably when teams think about World Cup shootouts or penalty shootouts eventually, they need to look at this chart. But there's another one. How often is each penalty in a World Cup shootout scored? So 82. Now the team kicking first and second. Okay, so we see that as the penalties start to extend, it gets very interesting. So your first kick,
because naturally the people are coming 11th and 12th, they are out of the best 5.
They are out of the best 5. So your first kick, so the team kicking first, 73%. So they are scoring. Second, 77%.
A good example, Franco Baresi. I believe he played first over the bar.
So if the documentary we did on the Black Stars penalties, that's the data. So you see in the top 5, you see the first and the third kicks being missed the most.
Yes.
You can add the fourth. I don't think you usually get there, but you put your best kickers on the first and the third. The first and usually because of the pressure. First kick, pressure situation. Third kick, usually by that time, something has already occurred. If everybody has scored, there's still a lot of pressure. If somebody has missed, maybe it's a must score, or you also have to score just to have the advantage. So you need your best kicks on those two.
Your first and
I don't subscribe to the school of thought where you put your best player at the last, because
he might not even
get the chance.
That happened to Ronaldo.
Prime example, Euro 2012. And I'll never forget the mix-up between Nani and...
Yeah, so...
Who was it? Bruno Alves. Yeah?
So what happened was, Nani was supposed to take the third kick.
Yes.
When it got to... No, Nani was supposed to take the fourth kick. When it got to Bruno Alves' turn, it was a must score for Portugal. That was a third kick. Yes. It was a must score for Portugal. So they had communicated. In fact, Nani had wanted Ronaldo to take that kick, and Ronaldo insisted he would take the fifth. So Nani took the initiative, asked the bench to quickly switch because of the pressure on Bruno Alves. So because I'm a very good penalty taker, let me get this one, ease some pressure off him. Maybe Rui Patricio can make a save, and then we go for the fourth. So that's why that switch happened. Bruno Alves was going in knowing he was going to take the kick. But Nani quickly wanted to, because of the pressure situation, take the initiative and take it. So if you remember, after the game, Nani was critical of Ronaldo. He was angry that Ronaldo didn't sacrifice himself. He was insistent on taking the fifth kick. Because at the end of the day, Ronaldo didn't get to kick a penalty. And that was what happened. Because Bruno, had they followed that trend, Bruno Alves missed the fourth kick. Had they continued that trend, Ronaldo would have taken the fourth and left the one for Bruno.
And I remember, so I don't know if you remember that clip. As soon as, was it Fabregas who scored? Somebody scored Spain's winning kick. And the camera just panned to Ronaldo.
And his head just went down.
He just mouthed the words, it's a K and Justicia. I always remember that. You were making a point, Susu.
And I was saying that there's another interesting stat so this is penalty in general for both teams. You can see it goes down because naturally the penalty taker quality goes down. But the interesting about shootouts is that shootouts on average, they said an average shootout penalty is the XG drops from 0.8 to 0.7 in a shootout. Basically, to say that because of the pressure, even the best penalty takers
can miss.
They can miss. And the chance of a penalty going out in a shootout drops by 10%. So that should tell you how hard it is. It's just on average. The next interesting fact is when a team is facing elimination, so if you have to score a penalty
to stay alive,
it drops to 34%. Wow. So it looks like by that time, the pressure has killed you. But interesting enough, when you have to score the penalty to win, it goes up to 90. So think about it, 90 and 34.
On drop off.
When you have to just score to stay in, 90%. When you have to score to stay alive, 34.
A couple of years ago, I was comparing notes from tennis and football. There was this very interesting study on the similarities between what Susu is saying, having to kick a last kick to stay in the game, as compared to tennis when you are serving to stay in a game. Okay. And then compared to kicking a last kick to win. And serving also, in tennis, serving to win a game. And the numbers were very similar. It means that when you are under pressure, when victory is on the horizon, when you can see it, your confidence goes up. When you are on the brink of it also drops. So it's a human thing.
And 90% rate on a penalty, which is usually 0.8, but in a shootout is 0.7. Going all the way up to 90 because it's a winning penalty, and to elimination going down to 34%. It's tough.
You mentioned that in my years of watching tennis, and I don't watch a lot of it, but when I do, when it is say 5-4, third set, let's say in the women's or 5-4, fourth set in the men's final, and the person is serving to win the championship, I can almost close my eyes and predict what will happen next, because 9 times out of 10, he goes on to win the set anyway. You just have a rare case
that's
where...
funny enough, he's finding his aces, he's finding...
that's all of a sudden...
And I think the person also, they are tense, because they know that you can't... There's no room for error, you know.
But isn't that when the errors should appear? When you are tense and you feel the pressure most, when you are serving to win.
I'm saying that the person defending
of course,
for error. At least in the tennis example. But in the football example, the keeper, he can do his best, but the person coming out just so much confidence. They are probably just going. Look, and a good example is Abreu against us. Abreu was supremely confident. He knew exactly what he was going to do.
He knew,
and he just knew that it was going to be, and he just.
Interesting stuff. Look, like we always say, the game has changed. A lot of numbers, science, data has come into play. So when we put out the numbers, it's just to help you understand and to better appreciate the sport that you watch at face value.